to keep it clean and chill. I was given this particular tape, and all through it I was laughing, you know, because there were people in the audience that I know are here today.
That's right.
Okay. And it's interesting because I know I could feel their hearts beating faster when you talk about it. It's interesting because 30 years of doing my work, I've run up into all kinds of adversarial stuff. As a matter of fact, death threats are a commonplace for me. It's just that it just made me think twice about who it was I've been speaking to for all these years.
Word, man.
Begin to wonder. But you know, you keep going.
Right.
Because my father told me that you are definitely going to go poor if you're going to try to raise black people. And you are going to be definitely attacked if you try to raise black people. So I took it on. I like a challenge. So all of what was said about me, Brother Sarnetta was the one that was pretty much more angry than anything else. I mean, this brother was very angry at what was being done. It was more hurtful for me because of who it was that was actually instigating and actually helping this thing along.
Right.
And after everything that we did together to raise the metaphysical community back up again and to bring out the message, well, what you gonna do? I know that on that day that Sarnetta has set up for that, I want to have a few things to say as an elder.
Right.
And why it is that even though you think I may hate women, women who know better, no, I don't.
Right.
All right? And that if they really read my book, they'll understand why it is that I don't like to tolerate any more of these feminist nonsense, all the bullshit that most feminists have been putting into our sisters' heads, and all the crap that you've been made to believe as women. My sister here, my queen here, knows I love her deeply, and that I will put my life on the line for her.
That's right.
She knows that every day. She don't have no bruise marks.
Right.
There ain't nothing around her neck. Nothing like that. So you understand that I do not hate my queen sisters. And if anybody believes that, they should have stepped to me and told me that. I said, I heard a whole lot of silence, which meant there was a whole lot of punks in the audience. So if you had anything to say to me then, it's going to be all right. I think, Brother Sarnetta, you think we can open the floor to any detractors at that time?
Hey, open it up.
It's all right? Oh, okay.
All right.
So come one, come all. Challenge me on my women hatred, and challenge me on my the faggotism, and challenge me on anything you want to challenge me on, but do it to my face. You know, this little young boy, I don't blame him. You know, when you want to get at the big boys, you start throwing rocks at them, and hope they look back at you. But
that's right.
I wanted to leave him alone. Sarnetta, he's the warrior, so I'm backing him, and I'm definitely he and Brother Big Man's thing, what he wants to do to address that situation, I support it. But I do support only sophisticated and very advanced answers. Like I told him, I said, the only person who, when you're wrestling with a pig in the mud, the only person that's happy is the pig. All right? So what you want to do is take it a little step up and expose him for who he really is.
That's right.
All right? And all the audience for who they really are. I wanted to tell you that today belongs to this Queen Mother. A lot of you know me for what I've done in the community and all the things that I've done in the past, for what I've done in order to raise, try to help raise Melanite consciousness in New York City alone. You all may be familiar with my work at Heal Thyself, when I helped to construct and create the Sacred Woman. But all you sisters are out there now talking about how to love yourself and all of that, that was me. The 12 Principles of the Sacred Woman, I wrote for Queen of Four on our anniversary day to celebrate that. I helped put together most of the things you see in her first book, Heal Thyself. So, before you make and cast stones, I don't like to blow up my own bubbles. A lot of people tell me you need to say a few more things. Well, he told me you need to say a few more things. Well, I will. All right? That was to address my woman hatred. The other part of it as far as me dealing with women all through my life, as clients, as wives, as friends, I have never, after my first wife, met a sister as powerful in her quiescent femininity as this queen. This sister has the healing touch, beyond all healing touch. And if you knew her like I knew her, like most of the sisters out here, the younger sisters who have gotten to know her and emulate who she is, you'd understand what it is that I feel for her. And when you get to know her, you'd understand that as well. This sister has a depth of knowledge and language, and her abilities and, excuse me, woo! You know what that was? Yeah. It's cool. Her abilities are unquestionable, and you're going to hear about it today. And you're going to pay attention also, because I know that there's someone out there seeding some kind of cancer. And we may be, you know, maybe looking healthy and so forth, but we are breathing toxic soup every day. And the way that cancer infests or infiltrates within us is a slow and deliberate breaking down of our defenses. Not our immune system, because no such thing exists, but our defensive system. Over a period of years, it becomes compromised, not only by our thought process, not only by the foods we take in to address those thought processes, but also by the toxic soup that we live and breathe in every day. And Sister has put together in her studies as a doctor of naturopathic medicine, as well as a Reiki practitioner, as well as a licensed massage therapist. She also does craniosacral biodynamics. The sister just goes on and on and on with her expertise. But what I'm going to do before I get into what it is that she's going to be doing, I'm going to touch upon what we need to, as people here, in our own health, to touch upon what it is we need to do in aligning our thoughts with the moment, the time, today. Because health is not just the physical, which is what Queen is going to get into, but it's the metaphysical as well. Something I've been blamed for doing in the community in New York too much, dealing with too much metaphysics. Well, maybe I was doing it over the head of most people because they just didn't catch the wounded womb. Maybe I've been doing it over the head of most people because they don't understand, except now Sarnetta now understands, because we've now locked into that, the value of inculcating the metaphysics with the nationalism and understanding how the beast is working from behind the scenes in doing what he's doing to compromise all of the energies necessary for us to do nationalism. So when we begin to coalesce with the talents of the whole community and start putting that together as a conscious, I don't know if you want to call it ballistic weaponry,
good,
both psycho-spiritual and metaphysical ballistics as well as physical ballistics, I believe that we're going to move forward as a people. We're going to start waking up. Right now we're a little comatose. We're too caught up in circuses. We're too caught up in phantasmagoria and bells and whistles rather than substance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay some things out having to do with the equinox of 2005. Because that's where we are today. This is the health time right now. If you're not doing anything with your health within the next 7 years, lay down and die. Just wait for it to catch up for you, because you're not going to catch up with it. Health is something you have to know and have now. If you don't know you have it now, then you're not going to receive it. It's not something you go get. Because health is who you are. Your whole body is towards life. And if it is not towards life, it is towards death. This is where you have to check your thinking. So I'm going to read off a few things that, in conjunction with Sister Myra L. and a brother from out of Hawaii, Brother Heru, and if you want their numbers later on, I'll give it to you if you want to do any kind of readings or so forth. And another brother named Brother Harris from out of London. We all got together to do a radio show that's on libradio.com. Brother Conscious Rasta. So can we have an elder here? Ladies and gentlemen, Mother Jeffries. Rosalind Jeffries. One of our other queens. Give thanks. So you all get your pens and pencils out about certain things that's going to be for you to start looking at during this time, and what they're going to do for your mental, psychological, psycho-spiritual health. Okay? Now, the month of March began a very, very heavy cycle, according to the brothers and sisters that I've been talking with. And this, for the next 6 months, we're under heavy pressure at this point. All right? We are entering Aries, and we are 1 degree today, 1 degree of Aries in the equinox. As we have entered the equinox, we have also entered Mercury retrograde. Now, any one of you who have ever done any kind of astrological work or any kind of things dealing with astrosophy, you know that Mercury retrograde is Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. It depends on the frame of mind that you are occupied with. As we've entered the equinox, major events will be exacerbated during this time. Like when they exposed the atrocities of Abu Ghraib, that was during Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde, it means that the Mercury planet, as it's going around the planet, begins to spin counter to what it normally does in a positive direction. If that's the case and it begins to spin in reverse, it begins to also reverse communications. So if somebody says the price is $135, you hear $145. You must pay close attention to what's going on around you at this time, because all of your appetites, all of your worst appetites are going to come to the surface. In fact, during this period of time is when you want to go to war, is when you want to argue with people. This is why it is so necessary that when we are teaching, that we teach to understand as well as overstand. Mercury retrograde is a low energy in terms of communication. No implementation of new projects or new plans should be expedited during this time. Don't plan something during this particular time. Between this month, today, the 30th, the 20th, 21st, and the 13th of April. If you're going to plan something and initiate within this time, it's due to fail. This is the way it happens. What you can do is take all of the stuff that you had sitting on the shelf, review it, and if it has already been in action, you can follow through with it. But again, it also it needs your scrutiny, very close scrutiny during this time. Now, a lot of people who are not into understanding or overstanding metaphysics will look at this and say, well, what is he talking about? He's just another astrologer or some astrologer. Yeah, right. Your government is based on astrology.
Right.
Your government doesn't move unless it does its astrology first. And that's why we have been failing as a nationalist movement. Because they've been using your own science that you now, because you got Christ, don't want to deal with no more.
Right.
Jesus said no astrology, and you, like a fool, took that up. So now here you are worshiping Jesus, and the Pope is back there calculating how to fuck you some more. And meanwhile, you got Jesus. All of y'all going to keep crucified. All of y'all going to stay crucified. How you going to worship a dead God? You must double check everything. This retrograde is in conjunction with recent planetary alignments, and it has to do with the Mayan calendar. And in the Mayan calendar, the planet Venus is the most powerful planet. And right now, we are Venus in transit. And this is why there's going to be so many powerful events happening. I'm not just talking about your health for physics, because you can go crazy during this time.
Right.
This is your mental health we're talking about, and we will be dealing with your physical and psycho-spiritual health. In the Mayan cosmology, Venus is the most powerful sign. It is Lucifer. It is Quetzalcoatl, the bringer of light, the bringer of enlightenment, and, on the reverse, the bringer of suffering. Venus is the most powerful of the Mayan planetary gods. Venus transit takes place roughly every 226 days. That is, Venus transiting the sun. And as it is transiting the sun, listen carefully, as it transits the sun, every 8 years, it takes 8 years for it to make a complete 5-pointed star. Let me just say that again. As Venus transits the sun, every 8 years, it makes an alignment where it transits across the sun, making every 226 days, by the 226th day, a 5-pointed star. Now, you think that the government don't know that? What did they make to commemorate that? Yes. They erected the Pentagon to vibrate on those energies, and those people move most of their ritualistic places depending on where Venus is transiting at the time. So where the Pentagon is, wherever it is that Venus is transiting, that's where they do most of their heavy ritual to plan and plot your downfall. Check?
Check.
Now, this is why the 5-pointed star is so vital a symbol in terms of ritual, especially Illuminati ritual, particularly the Knights Templar and their high ritual to Baphomet, the goat-headed human demigod, whose actual symbol is related to the adage, as above, so below. Baphomet's right hand points up, and the left hand points down. And you see at the left hand, 2 people are chained. It's in the card. And you see it in the weight deck. And 2 people are chained there because that's their chain to their passions. They're chained to their lower energies. And Baphomet points up to show you that you have a choice. And Baphomet is the goat because the goat is Capricorn. And Capricorn is the sign of the initiate. That is the awakening of the Christ seed, the birth of the Lazarus seed within you to match what happens in heaven. They even have a statue of George Washington looking just like this. Kawinky dink? No. The 5-pointed star of Venus across the face of the sun is the reason for rituals conducted to Baphomet down on earth. A ritual in heaven to duplicate it down on earth. How you doing, brother? My brother. High rituals are conducted in the Pentagon, which was built to Baphomet. During Venus transit, and I'll make this short, something major always happens. Listen carefully. You see, on March 30th, Venus will have completed the 5-pointed star configuration in the heavens. Now, that means on March 30th, Venus would have completed its final thing to the point where the horn is, or where man is, depending on who you are. Venus completes at March 30th the last transit to the point of the 5-pointed star. What I mean is Venus conjuncting the sun. In other words, every time Venus crosses the sun, it completes 1 point of the 5-pointed star in this transit. Every time it makes a transit, it connects a point. The first point would be the head, the second point the foot, the third point the arm, the fourth point the arm, and then the 5th point the foot. All of this takes place within 8 years. The Knights Templar sees this time as a very powerful opportunity. So look for serious upheavals in the Middle East during the time, because the sole quest of the night is to rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem at the exact coordinates of the Dome of the Rock, which is located, I believe, where they call the Mosque of Al-Aqar. I believe that the earthquakes in the east at the ancient city of Ran in 2003, and the earthquake that created the tsunami in 2004, and the one that just yesterday hit Japan, are all related to these cycles that are getting ready to come up here today. All right, now, new information and evidence just came out. Dude in Australia put it out that the earthquake, they got pictures and everything, was caused by a skip bomb. And that the oil in that region was being fought for quietly off the media scene that you didn't know nothing about. And that the skip bomb was an actual lesson to those people there. We want that part. Because as the tsunami was happening, reports came back that the United States didn't send anybody that was there for help. They sent warships. And helicopters were there, and reporters saw that as the tsunami was happening, the helicopters were shooting down at the rebels. Alright? This is quick. Now, Venus is Cupid to the Romans, which represents love and lust. The love with the 5-pointed star is up, the lust is the 5-pointed star down. Brother Harris made the observation that Mayor Marion Barry was struck down during a Venus transit. Now here, check this out. Jam Master Jay was killed during a Venus transit. The DC sniping took place during Venus transit, which made a point of punctuating the death ritual by displaying the death card. Now, Venus transiting during the sniper killing happened during Venus transiting in Scorpio, and Scorpio is the death card. But see, death for beginning, because Scorpio is also the phoenix. Now, anybody hip with the song we showed you, Walk This Way? Right. Okay, the song Walk This Way, when you played it in reverse, and I think I played it for somebody here.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. When you play it in reverse, it goes Hail Satan. Now, here you have Run DMC coming into the pop venue with that song. Walk this way. Which way? The way of Satan. That was the last you heard of them. They were the doorway into hip-hop, joining with the rock culture, and that's what gave birth to Rage Against the Machine and all the rest of these white boys doing rap over their rock music. Now, very quickly, Aerosmith was the name of the group that they did it with. Aero is the air. Who is the ruler of the air? Who? No, I'm talking about for them. The Lord of the Flies. See, the Lord of the Air, Aerosmith. That's the reason why they put all that together. Aerosmith is about worshiping Satan. Now, if you remember that during the time that the DC fight, the sniper was going, the song Walk This Way and the DC sniping killing was connected. Because through the media you kept hearing that people need to walk this way to avoid being a target.
Right.
Walk this way to stay safe. That they need to walk certain ways. They were playing with your heads metaphysically and you didn't know it. They play metaphysics on you all the time. You can decode their next move. Also watch for heads of state. Watch the influence of each stage of the moon and see what happens at the last quarter of the moon. Check the condition of the Pope. Mercury retrograde is in Pisces. And that's significant because the Pope is at the head of a religion that's based in Pisces. Bush has his Venus in Leo. When 9/11 happened, the Venus degree of that day was 16 degrees Leo, which is conjunct with Bush's Venus in Leo. Venus was the ruling planet of 9/11. Bush declared war that Friday on a Venus day. Last year in 2004, the year of the indigenous man, Earth witnessed one of the most powerful Venus transits. You could actually see, this was the thing that was so powerful, you could actually see and follow Venus transiting all around the sun. It was right there for people to see. It made its pentagon right there in front of us, not as we were moving outside of conjunction, but like it was standing still watching us, and it was doing the five-pointed star, and at the same time Mars had moved closer to Earth than it had in 79,000 years. In 2004, during the particular Venus transit, 2 prominent men died, if you remember, during Venus transit. Which 2 prominent men died in summer? Reagan and?
Ray Charles.
Yes! Yes! We got an attentive audience. Well, let me drop some science on you about this. This is for your psychological, psycho-spiritual health. Ray Charles is not just, you see, this is the part of knowing how to play inside of that part of yourself so that you can see the metaphysics. Ray Charles. Ray Charles. What am I saying? Ray Charles. Okay. Ray is? Ra, the sun. Ray. Beautiful. Charles is? Oh, say it again.
Charge.
No? All right. We'll get to that part. Char, C-H-A-R, means to burn black, to darken.
Oh, right. Right.
So Ra, Cha, check where I'm coming from now. Who'd they get to play him? Jamie Foxx. Ja. Fox. Now, Fox breaks down to what? Numerologically. Do the F-O-X. 1, 2, 6. Fox breaks down to 666. Now, 666 is the biochemical code for carbon. Three electrons, 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. So, Fox 666, which is the biochemical code for dark matter melanin, for carbon, and Cha, look damn near like him, could have been his son.
Right.
Might have been. Put together a dynamic thing and showed you who Ray Charles really was. What was wrong with Ray Charles? He was blind, but what is significant about that? You got to deal in your metaphysical mind. Ray is Ra, check.
Right.
If Ra was blind, that means what? What is that symbolic of for the sun and the moon? The left eye and the right eye. The left eye and the right eye. Left moon, right sun. So, Ray Charles functioned under the eclipse. But you see, the eclipse reveals, it doesn't conceal. In those two aspects, Ray Charles became a seer of sound. He began to decode things that pulled on your heartstring. He knew exactly what to say, knew exactly what to do at the time he came in and revolutionized black music, actually revolutionized world music by his eclipse. That's why I call him X-Ray Charles. Because he saw through sound. He saw through things that you and I could not see. We felt them because he, as a magician, brought them that way. Now, dark matter, black matter, melanin is on its way over here, which will begin to help us to regenerate. We're going to be breathing melanin within the next 7 years. Because they now sent up a humongous, gigantic, satellite into a zone of the Milky Way where they found dark matter melanin. Black matter melanin that they said was what? It's organic. It's DNA. Non-specific DNA that the universe, that the ancestors are sending to us. And they found that non-specific DNA in Rome. In Rome. The scientists in Rome found it. Now, for you all understanding what's happening at this time, so that you can get busy, Sister Myra L said to say to you that the sun will be 10 degrees in Aries. The sun will be, the Venus will be 10 degree Aries, and Mercury will be 7 degrees Aries. Now, Jupiter is in Libra at 14 degrees, opposing the sun and Venus. What we have is 2 Venus-ruled planets that will be an exact opposite to each other. I can't get into the meanings behind it. I'm just putting it down for those people who will be getting the tape. Libra is the balance, and Venus rules Libra. But in this case, Venus is opposed to the balancing energies of Libra, because it is not in the area where its great influence for balance would be expressed. So in this case, Libra and Venus is the counterbalance which signals upheavals. Now, Libra is naturally in opposition to Aries, and this is where we are now. With this Mercury retrograde, get ready for a lot of upheavals, not only in the family, but in the country. And again, I'm helping you with your financial health. So if Libra is in Aries and Aries is in opposition to Libra, then discord, chaos, and confusion will reign. Add to this Mercury in retrograde. What we will see in this cycle is the death of the Pope. We may see that happen.
Right.
And a head of state may be assassinated at this time. Tecumseh's curse may come full circle for Bush. We don't know. But we have to look now, because the heads of state, since now the Venus is transiting back to the head, we may see that Bush come under some serious criticism for the war in Iraq, because it's going to spill over into Syria, it's going to spill back over into Israel, and it will spill over into Russia and North Korea. We may also see heightened race relation tensions. Get ready for a lot more brothers being found lynched. In fact, they found a brother lynched 4 to 5 days before that brother, who was mind controlled. He didn't go to no white woman and she turned him over, because that white woman was his handler. That was his handler. He was told to report there after he did the deed. You're going to watch more mind control, because you got some fool walked into a church, popped 7 people, then popped himself. Right. I told you that when the last movie of The Matrix came out, the one before this, that the sleepers are going to start waking up. And that when, you didn't hear me this because I did a radio interview on this one, that when Constantine came out, that all kinds of triggers, MK Ultra triggers, and Monarch mind control triggers are going to start waking up sleepers. And sure enough, they started. For your own health. Some more predictions for your health. The military may practice curfews in small towns, which is a prelude to the big cities. Why? Because the dollar's about to crash. Watch for brownouts across the United States and Canada and in parts of Europe. More people will be losing their properties, mass confiscations of property by the IRS. The secret of this year's Venus transit of the Sun is that on the 19th, Mercury is positioned right at the center between Venus and the Sun, which makes Mercury a heavy influence on this cycle. And since Venus transiting the Sun is ritualistic in that it defines the pentagram, Mercury positioned in between Venus and the Sun while in retrograde will cause a heavy influence of discord in the ritual pentagram, which means that if anyone during this time wants to start us at each other's throat, this would be perfect. And they're using this time, when they lynched that brother down in Atlanta, when they're starting to make black people look like they're crazy, when you're going to start seeing them pulling black folks over more and more, they want to start something. They need to spend the money allocated for Homeland Security. Ain't nothing happening. They need something to happen. The next stage has to go in, and this is a perfect time under all this discord for that to happen. In other words, Venus... No. Venus is virtually in opposition to itself. Jupiter is the planet of extremes, so the influence will exacerbate the Sun in Aries, Venus in Aries, and Mercury in Aries. What we are looking at actually is insanity. Now, Jupiter equals expansion and is connected to financial matters. The current state of healthcare and Social Security, along with our crushing debt, could see a collapse in the economy that would lead to a state of emergency and in the U.S. in what is known as an economic crash and collapse, which would lead to an economic, what is that when they start locking people down? Okay, just metaphysically for your own health. Saturn is also 20 degrees of Cancer for all you Cancerians. It's opposing Jupiter and squaring all aspects of Aries, which means stress. The square is a stress point. Is a stress point astrologically. When you get into a square, that means it's hard for you to get around the obstacles that you're dealing with. Astrologically, because it's 90 degrees. In fact, the square is always about forcing you to change. You have to change direction. 90 degrees. Okay, Saturn is Satan, the point of discipline, or the planet of discipline, being 20 degrees of Saturn. means sisters had better watch their reproductive health, especially their breasts, the fallopian tubes. Also, may see a lot of endometrial problems, lots of clotting in the menses during this time. Now, all of this is going to lead to Queen Mother letting you understand exactly and take notes, because what she has put together in her research is going to blow your mind. Now, to finally sum this up, wanted to let you know that Bush has his cancer at cancer at 20. Well, he has his Saturn at 26 degrees of Cancer. Black moon, what they call Lilith, the Lilith moon, is 26 degrees Cancer, which means maybe his own mother might shoot him. All right? Even his daughters might hit him over the head or something. Now, I'm saying that because I believe that a woman will be involved in his downfall. This black moon Lilith is going to play a part if he can survive this. And Lilith is totally conjunct sign, which means that the feminine energy will pop up on the media radar screen and create chaos in Bush's life. And that person, that black moon, may end up being Condoleezza Rice. Now, some dirt about her and her past is going to show up, which may be the cause of what's going down. Condoleezza is a Uranus-dominating female. She is Uranus with Mars in her first house, which means she's a troublemaker by nature. She wants trouble. See, as soon as she got the Secretary of State, she went over there talking shit. Syria, we coming for your ass.
Yeah, right.
Iran, we coming for your ass. The Persians, who say they ain't Arab, say, yeah, come on. As soon as you say you got the bomb, they back you off. But they're trying to get you to stop dealing with your bomb, to give up your guns. England now is crying for their guns. Please give us our guns back. Australia crying for their guns back. Keep your gun.
Right.
Say that again.
All right, and in summing up, that Mars is now 7 degrees of Aquarius on March 30th. Aquarius is disconnected energy. It means all events will be based on cold calculation with no feelings, which means this is the way the Illuminati would move against you if they moved against you or you gave them provocation and cause. Now, I said all of that to bring us around to this particular point. We are at right now a conjunction where you can choose what path you want to choose. This situation that happened in Brooklyn, where this brother called me out and called Brother Sarnetta out, is essentially typical of Mercury being in retrograde and Mars having its influence over common sense and reason. I have no problem with brothers coming at me, telling me certain things about what it is that I am. If you feel that I hate women, come and tell me I hate women.
You want to try to get everybody in just a little bit down. That's it. Just a little. Thank you.
I want to make it so that you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bro.
I just didn't want to be all cool. All right. If there's any problems with me, if you have any qualms,
Right.
approach me. You know, tell me, you woman-hating son of a bitch. Let's discuss it. Just don't touch me. Call me anything you want. Just spell my name right.
That's right, Brother Phil.
Just spell my name right, because I ain't never backed down from a challenge. Somebody else jumped on me and tried to take me out, and Brother Big Man was there when the AIDS situation had come real strong. And I stood up then and everybody thought I was crazy. In 1984, 85, when they was dropping that nonsense on you all, I investigated to make sure that the shit was correct. And I found out that they were lying. And when I went to the community to tell them, brought the science, Gary Bird backed off of me.
Right.
everybody who was of any substance who was in the community backed off from me and started waging war. Dr. Barbara Justice started to talk and cast aspersions. Even went and visited a friend of mine down the way, Dr. Love, and with some other doctors who should be named nameless. It wasn't her, but some other people went there and forced him out. Said, if you don't leave out of here, we want to get you out of here. So we had gangster going on at that time because we were saying to the people, hey, this AIDS thing, y'all need to look at this again before you start believing them. Because it's Willie Lynch. So now when I started saying that back in 1985, 86, I was crazy, and a brother started putting out materials with my face on it, and the question under my face, is this the FBI agent? Why? Because I dared to counter what you said, and because you keep screaming black, 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 I'm supposed to believe your ass? You are the typical COINTELPRO counter-operative, calling me an agent, so that all attention will be not on me because of what it is the messenger is bringing as the message, but on the messenger.
Right.
So we're going to get into all of that because I thought we all got that when I told you about how to spot an agent provocateur.
Right.
But obviously all the Negroes in the audience that day, yeah, that's right, that's right.
That's right.
So when we're dealing with cattle and sheeple, I'm going to have to, I guess I'm going to have to teach just a little bit deeper in the information. Because obviously they didn't get it. They didn't get it. So when I was back there with that, I had to face that. And I went up on the stage of the slave theater. Remember the slave theater?
Right.
I had my brothers with me, and we stood there, and I called the brother out. On the community side, I don't have any problems facing danger. But we do here, up here. It takes a lot of, insanity to put your life on the line. To say to hell with what it is that everybody tells you that you're doing and could cause problems to yourself and your family. Because there's a greater good at the end. But I did it anyway. And you have my materials on AIDS. And guess what? Until white folks started saying it, ain't nobody believed it.
Right.
There again, Willie Lynch had your minds fucked up. So now everybody is crying, oh yeah, well we got to rethink AIDS. Yeah, but I'm done with that. Now I'm here with the metaphysics of breaking down your enemy and understanding how it is to work 3 and 4 years ahead of him, as he does with you, because he's 20 years ahead of you. How do you catch up? You catch up on the metaphysical plane where he is, where he reads the stars and the skies and knows what's to come, so he knows how to implement against you. So with that, that's just a precursor to what it is that Brother Sarnetta and myself are going to give to you. I promise I won't go off. During that time, it will be eloquent, as an elder should. I leave all of the going off and the ballistics to Brother Sarnetta, who can amply and with aptitude aim and fire. So with that, I thank you for the time that I have here, and I want to turn the time, your attention, over to the star of the evening. Now, you all may not have seen or heard of her except as with me, and that's a shame, and I've always wanted to counter that. I did that with other friends and other sisters and other people in that VAR. We won't talk about it. We did it in the beginning, and I want to turn the attention now away from me to this sister and to show you the kind of power that this sister has. It's a quiet power. Don't think it's going to come out like me. I can't get her to curse. I can't get her to swear. Angry as she gets, I can't get it out because that's not her nature. And I want you to enjoy that as well. I want you to enjoy her expertise and who she is, because she has the expertise. She is, again, a doctor of naturopathic medicine. She is a Reiki master. She's gone through all degrees in the levels of Reiki mastery. She is a practitioner in craniosacral biodynamics. That is the new way for touch therapy. That is the most advanced way for touch therapy and healing. She is a licensed, studied at the Swedish Institute, licensed Reiki practitioner. She's also an aromatherapist. It goes on, and she still wants to do more. So without any further ado, I want to introduce you to a powerful queen, my mate, Dr. Nalani Sot Netira.
feel up to it. I know you've been sitting for a long time. You may want to just stretch.
Turn your mic on. All the way to the end.
It's only if you choose just to stretch and relax, roll your shoulders a little bit, reach out, reach your arms out if you need to. You've been sitting, and I appreciate your attention. Okay, and while we're here, we may as well give thanks and have Hotep in a suit, if you wouldn't mind. It's not a prayer for those of you who are religious. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's just giving respect. Okay, Hotep in a suit usirimpu, disunu pertkaru, katao ka henkatu, kakao ka mekatu, ka meniku, ka seshu ka apadu, ka kur nebet nefert wabet, ma'at ank necherim, in ka inaku minaku, ma'akuru, meaning true of voice. And it's just a greeting, a Hotep. Okay, if you can have a seat if you feel.
Oh, she's a linguist as well. She teaches sign language for those of you who wish to learn it.
Okay, after all of that, oh, thank you. What I'd like to do is, first, I think I'll just make sure I know what I'm doing here. Okay. That's why they call me Dr. Nalani, because a lot of people don't want to pronounce my name. It's Sotmetira. So I've legally done it in my business as Dr. Nalani. What I want to talk about is cancer prevention. This lecture it will not be as long as I usually speak. It's usually 5 hours, and I get an opportunity, a minimum of 5 hours, and that gives me the opportunity to really break down things metaphysically, because there is no physical without the metaphysical. But being that we arranged it to be this way this time, what I'm going to give you will be sort of on the surface, but it will be an introduction to and a reminder of a lot that you already know. I know there are some nurses here who are, and I have great respect for them because they do the work, really. And I've had to study much of what they've had to study as well, so I know what they do. And so for you, those of you who are in the medical profession, this will be quite elementary. And for those of you who are health conscious, I won't be saying anything that you don't know. But sometimes we need to see it in our faces again and to be reminded of what we already know. So I'm going to just tell you what my title is. You are not a helpless victim. How many here have had family members or themselves had cancer? Almost everyone here, if not family members or a friend. I lost my uncle to lung cancer, and it was not pretty. I lost my father to lung cancer, and I had breast cancer. And actually, that's how I met Dr. Valentine. He taught me how to heal myself, and I did. And then I became interested in studying, and I went and studied more myself. I had already been into health and nutrition. But cancer is something that now it's an everyday occurrence. There are so many people dying unnecessarily, and that's what I want to show you today. We just want to remind ourselves of things that, like I said, that you already know. It's not necessary. So in minimizing your risk, we're going to talk a little bit about certain things that you've heard and that you know, just as a reminder of what DNA is. It's your genetic material. It provides instructions for every protein in your body. And it's found in the nucleus of each cell. It replicates itself before cell division, which is very important, and we'll discuss that a little bit as we get on. And it determines what you are. So it's very important that our DNA is maintained in its integrity. So we're just going to talk about a few of the words that we know already, like I said. Cell differentiation, the development of specific distinctive features in cells. Now this is very important because our body works as one, yet every part has its part to play. And when you are creating cells, which you do billions a day, millions an hour, and even a minute, there are things that should happen all the time, and they do. And it's just that when things go, quote, wrong, there's a reason for it. And so we'll be looking into that. So undifferentiated cells are obviously the cells that don't have this specificness about them. They're lacking that development of specific distinctive features. So you've got connective tissue that is made from certain cells that have that specific job to do. And everything goes where it should, and every part knows what it should be doing. Everyone knows carcinogenic, which really just means that it causes cancer. So when we use the term carcinogenic, that just means it causes cancer. And then there are antigens. Antigens are microscopic substances recognized as foreign by the body that activate the so-called immune system. Okay, so then there are toxins, which is just a nice word for poison. You know, they don't want to say, we've got poison in our food. They'll say, we have toxins. Right. Same thing. It really isn't a difference. Okay, so let's move forward. Looking at cell division, this is what occurs. And I'm not going to go into the terminology so much as just looking at, even the depiction is even clearer than this is the actual, and these are the depictions. But I would just want you to notice the DNA. And just take a look, that's all. Just notice it. As we move forward, it'll make sense. Okay. This is some of that cell division that we spoke of before. And this is happening millions of times a minute in your body, billions of times. So now, we're going to look at your blood chemistry. It can be polluted with chemicals. It can be deficient in necessary nutrients. It can be either too acidic or too alkaline. And it can be thick and sluggish. What does that mean? I mean, why even be concerned? Because every single thing that's an environment. That's your internal environment. And you are constantly creating your environment from times past, from what's occurring now, and from your thoughts. Negative emotions create hormonal imbalances, deplete your body of vital nutrients, and those are obviously some of the things that we mentioned before. They stress your liver, kidney, heart, and nervous system. They tax your so-called immune system. Lack of rest. These are all things I'm just laying out before we actually put them all together. Lack of rest disturbs your nervous system, depletes your energy, obviously, weakens, again, that so-called immune system, stresses the liver and kidneys, again. So now we're beginning to see a pattern already coming up. And it interferes with the blood purification process. In Chinese medicine, we think of wood and green are the color in the 5-element Chinese theory. And when you think of the tree in the wintertime, how the energy goes down into the earth. It looks like it's dead, but it's really not. And then in the spring, you see the life occurring again. Well, this is what happens every night when you go to bed. The liver purifies your blood. And not only does it purify, but it holds some of it back, and it stores some of that blood. And that is what helps your heart. Your heart slows down, the heart rate slows down, and the blood is being purified. Well, if you're staying up all night long, something is being compromised. And in the society that we live in, it's difficult to get ourselves to bed at a decent hour before 10 o'clock. Before 12 would be nice, you know. But these are some of the things to consider. Okay, then we have the external stressors. We've got polluted air and water, we've got extreme temperatures, tight, ill-fitted clothing, and injury from bumps and bruises and other outside sources. And these things by themselves, now no one thing is in a vacuum. Not one thing by itself is going to cause cancer, but let's just start looking at all of these things as a complete picture, and let's see the picture that it creates. Now, the physical evidence of cancer begins at the molecular level. And I stress the physical evidence because we know, those of you who are students of metaphysics, that everything belongs or begins in the spiritual realm. So by the time cancer is detected, it's been there. It's been there for years, even. But before that, it began in the spiritual. But right now, we're going to deal with the physical. And I particularly like this. Oops, sorry. Let's go back. I particularly like this depiction of DNA because it's a little bit closer to the way it really looks. Because the DNA helix you're used to seeing, it's really kind of wide open, but it's much, much more condensed. And when we're dealing with protecting the cells, we have to understand that when we're in the process of dividing the cells, more of the surface of that DNA is open, and there's more danger of it being protected, and more of it is unprotected at that time. That's when it's in the process of dividing. Now, you've heard free radicals discussed a lot, and we're just going to talk a little bit about that. Atoms that have one or more unpaired electrons, and they do have an extremely high chemical reactivity, and that's something to bear in mind. Free radicals, and I took from different sources, I just, my own way of putting it together, and as well as using the medical dictionary Tabors. A molecule containing an odd number of electrons. They contain, free radicals contain an open bond or half bond, and they are highly reactive. So they go around searching for a partner because the electrons and the protons have to be balanced. So when something happens and you have one that has this odd number, it's going to quickly find another one to attach itself to, or take from another one to make a pair. Highly reactive chemicals with unpaired electrons that can scramble the structure of proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids, or which of course is DNA, is part of that nucleic acid. So if two radicals react, then both are eliminated. If a radical reacts with a non-radical, another radical is produced, and this occurs rapidly, and then it has a chain reaction. Now, cancer does not attack a healthy body. It is a natural progression of cause and effect, and that is something that we have to take responsibility for ourselves and know this, that cancer is not something that just attacks a healthy body. You have to be a host. You have to be open for it. ready to accept it. Now, you may not be doing this consciously, but there are conditions that cause it. And let's look at some of those man-made conditions, because many of them are. So we've got New Jersey, okay? We've got all kinds of stuff coming up here that we're breathing, and this, there's just no excuse for this one.
Look at the skull in there.
Right.
Yeah. And then we've got this polluted water. So these are only a few of the man-made conditions that we have that set us up, that set the soil, get the soil ready, that set us up for cancer. Dr. Epstein, which I will speak quite a bit about, I'll talk to you about his book, The Politics of Cancer. I'll talk about that later though. But he says that food is the single most important route of exposure for humans to synthetic chemicals in the food. Now, this, like I said, this is not something that's new to you, but we have to focus on things sometimes, things that we already know. We have to bring our focus into it so that we recognize the reality of it. Now, let's look at our wonderful drink here. Now, we all often speak about nutritionists and naturopaths often come down hard on sugar. And we know that there's a lot going on with sugar. We'll get into that. Processed foods form unnatural amino acids. So it's not that it, and I want to make something else clear, even that it just came into my mind. I had a young sister, I don't know if she's here or not, but she said she wasn't too sure she wanted to come because her hair is straight and she wears makeup, and when we come to these conscious meetings, there are people who judge her, and she didn't like that. And I said, well, that's a very sad thing that we, I'm sure that we're more mature than that, but the thought came about being judgmental. If you eat McDonald's, if you eat meat, because a lot of people are vegetarians, that's your journey. I mean, we don't need to judge each other. We need to understand each other, and we need to come from a place of understanding. So I'm not pointing out this stuff that they call food as to condemn anyone. I'm just letting you know that they form unnatural amino acids that are known to damage your DNA. And remember, that's your genetic material that makes you who you are and what you are. So let's talk about sugar just a little bit. And I just thought I'd put a few things that sugar will do for us, just a few, okay? And they're obvious, I'm not going to read them all. There are many books out that I'm sure you've read about sugar. The thing that makes it so difficult is that it is an addictive drug, and it's not easy. I used to smoke years and years ago. It was not easy to quit. And when you are hooked on sugar, it is not easy to quit. It is not easy. So don't be hard on yourself if you're trying to stop. You might want to try some agave, though, A-G-A-V-E. Agave is not quite the same on the glycemic scale, and it's much easier on your body, on your pancreas, and it's sweeter than sugar, by the way, and it doesn't have a strong taste, which is great.
Delicious.
It looks like honey, but it's not strong like honey. So A-G-A-V-E,
We'll be
agave.
letting you know how you can actually order it and some other stuff a little later on.
Right. And yes, you can get it from different sources. You can get it from the health food store as well. Agave. And then there's stevia, select. So there are things you can do that will help you if you're trying to get off of sugar. There are a few more things about sugar. Very obvious. But they drain your body. So if on the one hand you're taking vitamins and on the other hand you have Kool-Aid and soda, you're wasting your money. Okay, so Dr. Epstein says that cancer is caused mainly by exposure to chemical or physical agents in the environment. And actually it is 80 to 90%. 80 to 90% of cancers are caused and due to exposure to chemical or physical agents in the environment and in the food. He says that there is no known method for measuring or predicting a safe level of exposure to any carcinogen below which cancer will not result in any individual or population group. So in other words, when they tell you, oh, a little bit won't hurt, think about that. Ladies, when they tell you that you need a mammogram every year, think about that. Because by the time, if you have a mammogram, by the time it's large enough for them to see, it's there, it's well in there. So there are things you can do to heal yourself if you already have been diagnosed with it and prevent it from occurring. It's possible to detect over 600 different chemicals in our bodies that weren't there in the 1900s, in the early 1900s. And they keep coming up with new ones every year. Mm-hmm. And then we wonder why we are sick and dying. By the way, Eat to Beat Cancer is another excellent book. I have a list of books that I'll give you a chance to write them down, so don't be concerned if I switch the screen. You'll be able to get the titles of many of these books. Now there are 12,000 chemicals that contaminate our food. 12,000 chemicals that contaminate our food. The body recognizes food, period. If it's not food, the body doesn't recognize it as food, and the body has to do something to it. So when you take a drug and you think that the drug is working on you, you've got it in the reverse. It's you working on the drug. So you've got a headache and you take an aspirin and the body says, what is this poison? And all of this energy leaves your head and goes to the area. Your body is working on that to get rid of this toxin. And then the energy is gone and the headache is gone. I mean, that's a simplified version of what occurs, but on the slightly on the metaphysical. But if we're eating it, not only are we breathing it, now we're eating and drinking it. So obviously something has got to give. So now I'd like to talk about cancer prevention. What can we do in the light of all of this stuff that we've seen? I mean, how much control do we have over the air that we breathe? You know, but you do have control of what goes in your mouth and what goes in your children's bodies. The first thing you can do is get yourself to a peaceful state of mind. And I know
That's
those
a
of you...
peaceful looking brother.
I like this guy. If you've seen my other lectures, I use him in every one. I try to find a way because, you know, he found, this is the elevator to me. That's what I'm thinking. He's in the elevator, finding his peace of mind. Okay. This is not New Age. This is reality. Now that they've found, now that we have all types of apparatus that can measure all of these things electronically, now we believe it. But our ancestors knew, and we have known for centuries, that the spiritual creates the physical. And if you are not in a peaceful state of mind, you are in a state where your body, your nervous system is working, your sympathetic nervous system is working. You're in a state of fight or flight, you know. And so that energy is not a healing energy. Things shut down. The healing part of you shuts down. And I want you to know that you have cancer cells in your body at this very moment. You've always had them. It's not a big deal. You can handle it. It's just that when you load the body with all of these other things, then you have obstacles to healing, because you're healing yourself every day, all the time. You're healing. So let's start with a peaceful state of mind. And whatever you need to do, you need to look at yourself and say, my busy schedule won't allow me to take 5 minutes. I need to do something and make a change, because this is where it starts. So in terms of your lifestyle and personal habits and choices of consumer products, what are some of the things you can do? First of all, don't smoke. Well, we know that's an obvious one, but for those of you who do smoke, if you'd like some help, there are many institutions there. Dr. Valentine and myself are here to help you. You can quit smoking, and you can do it without going insane. And obviously, you need to avoid alcohol. But if you smoke, you really need to avoid alcohol, because they are much more lethal together than either one alone. Now I want to talk about chemoprevention. What is chemoprevention? Well, when you look at things on the chemical scale, and when you're breaking things down to their molecular structure, there are foods that you can eat that will protect you, that will help you protect yourself. Over the last 20 years, a staggering body of scientific evidence has shown and proved that compounds in food can provide significant protection against heart disease, toxicity, which is poison, just being poisoned, and cancer. And I got this from, I believe I got this one from Eat to Beat Cancer, I believe. But they're the so-called Super 8 food groups, and those are your chemopreventatives. Now, each one of these food groups is going to provide protection. It's going to provide an exclusive form of cancer defense, and it's not available in other food groups, and they're not duplicated by other food groups. And the whole is greater than the sum of its parts when we're dealing with these particular foods that we'll be talking about. The first one is your onion group. Now, onions are a stimulant. Garlic is a stimulant. Even though herbalists have used them for years and they have very good properties, but as hygienic naturopaths, we just have to let you know the real deal, that herbs are drugs just like drugs are drugs. They're just different kinds of drugs, and they're in some ways safer, but you have to be careful with them. So personally, I prefer the asparagus. It's in the same family, but if you like onions, good. All right, so these are your groups, and every one of these will help, chemically help you to prevent cancer. That's our little insurance. Okay, now, natural sunlight. No matter what they tell you, you cannot get vitamin D from any other place but yourself. You create vitamin D from the sun. And if you're sitting in a car and the window is up, you're not getting the rays that you need. We need the sun. The reason why so many of us burn, and I just would like a show of hands if I may, how many of you burn in the summertime, sunburn? Okay. I know I've begun burning when as a child I didn't. but now I notice that I do. A lot of the times, and I know this sounds weird, but it is proven, it has been proven, that you can burn because you're toxic. Yes, you can burn, the sun will burn you more if you have more toxins in your system. Okay, we need the sunlight. I have a pact, I know I mention this all the time, but I do have a pact with the sun. The sun feeds me, it nourishes me, and it doesn't give me negative rays. That's my agreement with the sun. But one of the most powerful healing properties in your body is vitamin D. And the only way you can get it is through the use of the sun, from direct sunlight. The more melanin you have in your skin, the longer you need to be in direct sunlight to produce the same amount of vitamin D as lighter skinned people. Okay, so let's move on. Boy, that looks like it's someplace where I want to be. Okay, your kidneys and your liver make that vitamin D available to the rest of you. So everything has to work synergistically. Your intestines cannot absorb calcium without sufficient levels of vitamin D. So you may have calcium in your body, but you may not be absorbing it just because you have so much stuff in your intestines. And also because of the lack of that vitamin D. And of course, the farther away from the equator you are, the longer the exposure that you need. Now, vitamin D helps to prevent breast and prostate cancers. And let me tell you something else about your wonderful sunscreens. First of all, they're chemicals, so if you're putting it on your skin, you may as well be drinking it. Almost, not quite, but almost. So for those of us who do wear makeup, it's a good idea to get some natural makeup because it's going in your skin. And those sunscreens are blocking our ability to make the vitamin D that we need. Many people are diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a state of malaise. It's very painful. And it could be a vitamin D deficiency. So that's something we have to watch, our vitamin D intake. Yes?
I'm sorry, are you suggesting that we don't use sunscreen?
I don't, for the very reason that I know it blocks it blocks my ability to make vitamin D. Now, if you eat a lot of toxic foods, you're going to burn, and the sun will affect you the way it affects others whose freckles are not so close together. So I'll put it that way. I wouldn't tell you not to use it.
I'm going to call him a cracker.
Incorrigible, this man. Okay, but it is the only way to ensure that your body will create enough vitamin D. And yes, prostate cancer is often due to that is a part of it. You know, that's not the only thing. Like I said, nothing is in a vacuum, but it is one of the #1 causes of vitamin D deficiency.
Brothers and sisters, we will have the questions at the end of the lecture.
Okay. Now, so what can you do? This is in your water. This is in our water. And there's so much more. I mean, we could take any one of these things and break them down and discuss what happens to the body as a result of this. This is what's happening to a lot of the little children in school that they say have ADD. that do have ADT.
This is in bottled water also?
This is in some of them, but not in all of them. It's very difficult these days to get pure water because there just isn't any anymore, but because they need specific types of filtration. But there are things you can do. You can do things with your crystals. I know I used to keep a crystal in my water after you've prepared it in a certain way. But at least have it filtered. I mean, that's at the very least. And of course, distilled water is excellent to have. But that's one thing you have control over that, you see. That's one thing that you have control over. And another thing you have control over, everything here, you have control over what goes in your mouth. If you don't have a juicer, it's a good idea to invest in one. Because this is really where you should get your supplements from, as opposed to taking supplements, even though we often have to recommend it now. We're in a state of what we call a state of triage now, a state of emergency. 10 years ago, we wouldn't, maybe even 5 years ago, we wouldn't recommend certain supplements that now we find ourselves having to recommend because we're in a state of emergency. But it's a good idea to squeeze your own juice. So when you deal with supplements, though, make sure that they're organic. Make sure that your body can use them, because a lot of the supplements on the market today are just a waste of your money. Your body can't break it down, and it just goes out with your waste. The best form of your vitamin is in your food, in your organic food, and then in your juicing. But to add to that, there are certain things, many of which are listed here, and each one of these things we could break down, but as I said, this is the short version, so we won't go too far into them. I'm going to talk more about the antioxidants because we spoke about the goji berries, which is high antioxidant. The essential fatty acids are extremely important. If you would have, if you don't use flaxseed or hemp seed oil, it's a good idea to get them. It's very, very important for those of you who have children, particularly young ones, that they have some flaxseed oil daily. We have had studies where we've taken children off of Ritalin just by giving them flaxseed oil alone.
Yeah.
Because okay, I'll repeat that. We've had children who we were able to take off of Ritalin because they were given nutritional supplement, and the main one was the flaxseed oil, just with the flaxseed oil alone. And the reason for that is because your brain cells have a lipid, what's the word? Coating. Actually, not a coating, the lining, thank you. Right, membrane, there we are, thank you. And the type of fat that you eat will let you know the type of brain cells, the type of lipids that are in your brain, that are around the brain cells. And when you have the proper essential fatty acids, you can create the type of brain cells that you need. And that's just one of the many things that the essential fatty acids will do. But the flaxseed oil, for those of you who eat fish, the salmon is excellent. The hemp seed oil is excellent for that. And the flaxseed oil in particular, is excellent a way of having an anti-inflammatory, because it is anti-inflammatory. Antioxidants neutralize those free radicals that we spoke of that go around grabbing the others by donating one of their own electrons. So that ends that reaction. So when you flood yourself with the proper nutrients that have these antioxidants, it's just insurance against your body breaking down. And we could take, we're talking about cancer and specifically, but we could take any dis-ease because the body doesn't have a name for it. That's just one area that your body is choosing to show you that there's an imbalance. The goji berry wolf juice, the goji wolfberry juice is high in antioxidants. In fact, it's the highest. The Chinese have had this for years, for centuries. And in the Ningxia province, where this particular brand of jerry is, of juice, where those berries are taken from, the average age, and I'm speaking average age, is 80, because most of them live to be 115, 120, 135, and I'm not saying lying in the bed waiting to die 135. I'm saying getting up, farming, walking 3 or 6 miles a day at age 110. They don't have the pollution that we have, number one. So let's get this straight. I'm not telling you that it's this juice that made them 135 years. Now, I'm not going to even attempt to do that. But all things have to be in place. If your mind is clear, first, if you don't have hatred in your heart, second, and believe it or not, that's extremely important for your heart's sake and for your spirit and your health. You get those things in order first. Then we're dealing with the air that we breathe and the air that they breathe. Okay? Then we're dealing with the food that you eat. All of those things together will create the right space for you to be in. I could fill this screen with things that this wolfberry juice has done. I know even myself, I use my glasses less, and I've just been drinking it for a couple of months. Some people have had their prescriptions reduced just because there is macular regeneration with this juice. This juice has, the wolfberry is the main ingredient, but it also has pomegranate. It's a blend, a proprietary blend of pomegranate, the wolfberries, pomegranate, apricot, blueberries, and raspberries. And then they add therapeutic grade essential oils of lemon and orange. Now, most of the oils that you see in the store, in the health food stores, they'll say 100% organic, 100% natural, but do not ingest. And the reason for that is because they are not therapeutic grade, which means you cannot ingest them. They may be cut with other chemicals because the government allows them to use 10% of the pure essential oil and 90% of something else and claim that it's 100% essential oil, 100% natural. To me, natural means nothing anymore. Tell me it's organic, tell me it's therapeutic, and then we can talk. So those essential oils, once they go into the blood, they have a chemical constituency that's very much like our own hemoglobin. They are oxygen carriers. So not only do they carry oxygen, but they help the nutrient to go into the cell. And so all of the supplements that do have those essential oils in them are far more powerful for that reason. So what else can you do? First of all, stay conscious. Stay mindful of what you're doing. I just love her. She just so sweet. Look at her. Okay, I'll repeat them. They're antibacterial, antifungal, anti-infectious, antiviral, anti-diabetic, anti-parasitic, anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, antitumoral, they are expectorants, they are anti-carcinogenic, insecticidal, antidepressants, they're hormone balancing, emotionally uplifting, and anticoagulant, and there's more. I just couldn't fit them on the screen. Really. These oils are not, they don't have an oily consistency. They're called oils, but they're really not oily. They're the lifeblood of the plant. And in Kemet, these oils were used for healing, for embalming, and for their healing properties. I could just spend 2 hours telling you about these oils, but I won't, because this is not about essential oils. This is about preventing cancer. One oil I will mention, though, orange oil is a high anti-tumoral, very powerful, very powerful. We've used, and it also helps to protect the vascular integrity, your veins and arteries, the orange oil. And it's more effective internally than if you put it on the skin. Certain oils are better taken internally, and others are to be used on the skin. So they transport oxygen, they enhance the food supplements, they augment acupuncture. Many acupuncturists use the essential oils to put their needle in first at the tip, and then they go ahead and apply them. They restore herbs, and we've used them, at least Young Living uses them, because when you deal with herbs, and this is something that we need to be aware of, herbs are sprayed with insecticides, okay? If you're not getting organic herbs, then I think that you're wasting your money, because we're dealing with poisons, and many of the herbs are sprayed. And not only that, but they're put through a process that causes them to lose their enzymic integrity. So I know of one company that they actually restore, they respray the essential oils back onto the herbs after they've dried, after they've processed them, so that there is more of the essence of the herb there, if you do use herbs. So all of these things, I'm sure you've read them for yourselves. Now, what is the difference between therapeutic grade essential oils and those that are so-called natural? Well, I already discussed that, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But they have to pass a certain testing. They have to pass certain standards, and they have to be certified. And those Young Living particular are the only ones that I know of. I think there are 2 in the country. 2% of the essential oils in the world, 2% are therapeutic grade. And there is, Young Living is not the only company. It's just the only one that I know. But there is another company that makes therapeutic grade essential oils. So what else can you do? We've listed these already. Eating lots of organic vegetables. We've discussed the Super 8 group and the natural food source supplements and the 100% essential oils. Now, the next thing I would ask you to please continue, and I know you already do this, but read your labels. Read labels and teach your children to read your labels. If you see FD&C and certified colors, that means that you've got toxins there. You've got chemicals in your food. Nitrates and nitrites, highly carcinogenic. We've known this since the 70s or even before. Flavor enhancers and natural flavors. If you can't tell me what those natural flavors are, then leave it on the shelf. Now, Turretine, that's from crude oil. Did you know that Amoco is a food company?
gas people.
The gas people, yes, from crude oil. Torula yeast is an example of a petroleum protein. Turrutine is a high-protein yeast culture that's grown on ethanol and is derived from hydrocarbons. These are isolated from crude oil. Emphasis on crude. And all of these products, meat products, baked goods, infant foods, and frozen foods, often have turrutine in it. Flavor enhancers and natural flavors are terms that can be used for petroleum proteins and other toxic additives. Baby pacifiers, rubber bottle nipples, tobacco, and most cosmetics are sources of nitrites, which are highly carcinogenic. Highly carcinogenic. By the way, if you drink water like this, please don't freeze them, because when you do, then the integrity of the plastic is compromised, and you end up with some of those toxins and chemicals in your water. So it's a good idea not to freeze these, but at room temperature, you know, or chilled. Chilled is okay. Oh yes, and thank you for reminding me. Leaving it in the sun, the same thing happens. It's those extreme temperatures that will compromise the integrity there.
Based on the gauge.
Right.
It's 1 toxic.
Yes, from 1 to 7, there's a gauge on the plastic. If it says a 1, that's the least protective. And if it has a 7, it's the most. There are different kinds of, you know, different grades of the plastic. Boycott.
Plastic be dark or light?
Wait, we'll ask questions. That's a good question, though. That was a good question. It's better if it's darker. It is better.
For what you're protecting.
Right. But you do have a right to know. And we as a people could use a little more scrutinizing and be a little more demanding. We could be a lot more demanding in what we accept. And if you look in our neighborhoods, that is where you find this toxic stuff. It's where we live. It's in our stores. It's at the bodega. It's at the grocery store. That's even the large grocery stores nearby. And try to find some organic food in one of these large places. And it's not, don't blame it on them. We don't ask for it. If we demand it, they would put it there. If we say, I'm not eating this crap, I'm not buying this, let's boycott this store. You know, but we're busy, we're in our lives, we're doing our thing, and we're just getting worked over. Okay, but we have a right to know. We have a right to know what goes in our bodies, and we should exercise that right a lot more. What else can you do? Well, let's go through our list again. Just a reminder. Inform yourself. I want to introduce to you, and this book here, The Politics of Cancer Revisited, is an excellent, excellent book. And I just want to read, put it there for me, thank you. I just want to read just a little bit from The Politics of Cancer. It's a little dark here. Yes, this is by Epstein. I'm sorry. I have a list. I do have a listing, and I will show you the listing with the authors of the books that I'm recommending. Most critical of all, the cancer establishment has failed to provide Congress, I won't go through that, but unwitting exposures to avoidable carcinogens in air, water, the workplace, consumer products, food, cosmetics, and toiletries, and household products, with the result that corrective legislative and regulatory action has not been taken. The cancer establishment, and there is such a thing as a cancer establishment, and there is such a thing as a cancer industry. And I'm going to show you how big that industry is. The cancer establishment has also failed to provide the public, particularly African American and other underprivileged ethnic groups with their disproportionately higher incidence and mortality rates, with such information on avoidable causes of cancer, thus denying their rights to know and to take necessary action to protect themselves, which is a flagrant rejection of environmental justice. Okay, one other thing. This was written a little time ago, so he says, as we enter the year 2000, cancer is well on its way to becoming the nation's #1 killer, taking 500,000 lives and milking, I should say, our purses of well over $100 billion, $110 billion a year, and it's growing. This is a cancer industry. Do you know how many people would be put out of work if nobody got cancer? If we were all healed of cancer by tomorrow? We're talking trucking industry, we're talking pharmaceuticals, we're speaking of a huge, huge industry that we are supporting with our lives and with our posterity, our children. We can stop this. And that's my whole point, is that you are not a helpless victim. This is stuff we know. We just need to be reminded, and we need to get focused at doing what we need to do to take care of it. Eat to Beat Cancer, this is where the listing is, by Hatharill, is an excellent book to read. When Healing Becomes a Crime, this is my absolute favorite. This is my favorite. This one is about Hoxie and the Hoxie clinics and why they were forced to go to Texas to heal, because he was really healing people of cancer, and the FDA and the government drove him. First of all, they had him, they put him in jail well over 100 times. He was arrested for healing people. The AMA, the marvelous AMA. The Safe Shopper's Bible is another one by Epstein, which is very good, because it lets you know what products has what. So you know the level of safety in certain products. And of course, The Politics of Cancer, which is what I just read out of, which is a heavy, but it really shows the real deal politics. I think he wants your attention. The UV Advantage, speaking about the sunlight and how much you need the sun. Your Body's Many Cries for Water, which is another excellent book. Excellent book. All of these are really put together. When you put them all together, they all say the same thing. And that's what I like to see, the fine thread of truth that goes through all of this information. So, oh, I'm sorry. Was that the last one? Was it one more after Your Body's Many Cries for Water? Oh, okay. Okay. If you get one first, I would recommend When Healing Becomes a Crime. It's really, it's well written. It's written by a journalist. In fact, he had made a documentary about it, which I would love to see and show, that really showed the government and the AMA for what it really, the power that it really has. Is that it? Ready? Okay, let's move forward. Daily affirmations are great. And if you affirm to yourself, it may sound hokey and pokey to you, but what you think is what you are. And what you think is what you create. And that's a proven fact. Now we can say that. As I said before, we have to wait until someone comes along to test these things with instruments. But some of us don't, and we know this. It's a fact. What you think is what you are. So if we can all just say this, humor me. Let's all do this together. I am well.
I am well.
I am strong.
I am strong.
I am my own healer.
I am my own healer.
I eat well.
I eat well.
I do the things that will improve my health.
I do the things that will improve my health.
This is my agreement.
This is my agreement.
My agreement is with no one else but myself.
My agreement is with no one else but myself.
And that's the way it is, really. Your agreement, really, what you agree to. We have agreed to sit here, and I appreciate that. And I neglected to mention it earlier, but I often, and I like to just let you know that I appreciate the fact that you have taken your time to come and to sit here and allow me to take this much of your time. I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly, and I just want to thank you for that. So, no, you are not a helpless victim. There are things you can do, and at another time, I would like to go deeper into it because there's science behind every single thing that we mentioned today. This was sort of on the surface, sort of superficial, but wetting our feet, so to speak. But there's a lot more that you can do. You're not a helpless victim. I don't care if they told you that you do have it and that you may be dying in the next few years. You can turn that around. I've seen it happen. I've done it myself. So I know it can happen. And I just want to say thank you. If you have any questions, now is a good time.
And please.
Not speeches, questions.
Yes, speak up.
We'll start with the elder first, and then we'll get to the other elder.
You can take that off
Hey,
now.
brother,
Yes.
could you give us some information on Dr. Sabi, please?
Okay, we're going to begin with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very quickly. Again, not talking about the brother is not here, but I am going to take a license to talk about the brother because he's talked about me. Otherwise, I would just say reminisce. Well, Brother Dr. Sabi has been working, in the community, and he's been doing his work and has been helping people. And, I can't asparage anyone who is trying to aid our brothers and sisters. Unfortunately, we don't see eye to eye on the same premise as far as healing is concerned because he uses toxins. He uses, in conjunction with the toxins, biochemical tissue salts as well because he's a biochemist. But he and I locked horns on WLIB, for you, those who remember. And we went at it because he said that he cured HIV/AIDS, which really doesn't make any sense because it doesn't exist. So you figure you cured something that didn't exist. And he said he cured, but when he says on the thing, he cured the symptoms of, then that's something different. You don't cure disease by curing the symptoms, because the symptoms are essentially the expression of the healing process. We don't deal as hygienicists. That's what we want you to understand. Naturopaths deal with certain toxins. The natural order is that they follow a pattern that is allopathic in nature. In other words, allopathy takes substances and attacks the symptoms with it. Natural healing today does the same thing. It uses forms of toxins to heroically drug or suppress symptoms, which is not what we do. That's why people don't come to us unless they're really ready to work. They would rather have a drug, or what herb are you going to give me? This, so we don't do that. So people say, well, what the heck do you do? Well, we teach you how to go through your healing process so that you understand what's happening to you, that you are purposefully allowing yourself to go through a crisis and thus aiding the intelligence in the body to do the real healing at the molecular and genetic level.
At the source.
At the source.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't use poisons because we don't believe you could poison somebody back to health. The brother there has a question for Queen.
Yes, when I originally asked about the color of the bottle, I was thinking that maybe it might be good to take the water out of the transparent plastic bottle and put it in a brown beer glass container?
Absolutely. It's better. Glass is always better. Glass is always better.
Yeah, but it's interesting you're saying the color, because you would not need to deal with color when you're dealing with water, because the best thing to do in glass is to put the water in the sun. Essentially, water, if you want to filter or create anything, you want to get the best water is from the highest elevated mountains as the rain falls. That's catching it there. That's the best water. The next best is the water that you get directly from filtering through reverse osmosis and taking from distilling, because that's the best way. Distilled water is what your body uses. Okay. If you're going to store something, make sure that you store live products. Say like you want to store juices that are made from your more expensive juice makers, like the Norwalk. That's over $1,000. It doesn't aspirate and cause a whole lot of loss of nutrients. It's centrifugal. It's not that way. What it is, it presses, it compresses and squeezes the juice. So you store that in a dark bottle so that the rays do not destroy the very delicate nutrients that are left, actually. Okay.
If AIDS isn't real, what is it? I mean,
AIDS?
people saying
AIDS.
It's
Well, we can
They
spend
say people
5
are
hours
dying.
on that one.
Yeah.
But just putting it briefly, there are symptoms, there are things that happen to your body when you have weakened yourself, when you're at a weakened state, and the body is no longer functioning in those ways that we discussed before, with the billions of cells doing what they need to do. There are certain symptoms that happen, but a lot of the time, when a person is tested for AIDS, what will happen is that they will have, if you have a cold and you have the flu and you go to get an HIV testing, you will test positive. Okay? And then if you get scared and go ahead and start taking drugs for that, what have you done to your liver? What have you done to your immune system? You're breaking it down. And a lot of this has happened. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on that, because we can get into it. We have had symposiums, and we've had a time where we had someone from the health department put in. She was there, and we had facts that could not be refuted. So I know it sounds weird because of the way things are being brought over the media and because of what is seen, and people are dying. I mean, I lost 2 family members. You know, they're 2 uncles of mine who used to do drugs, and but there are a lot of things that happen in the process of doing drugs and sharing needles that have less to do with blood being shared than with certain drugs being shared, which is not coming out. It's not being brought out to the open.
Exactly. And let me just say this. AIDS